Okay guys, I found a craft beer bar in Amman. It is called Biera, and as you can see it looks pretty good, and they also produce their own beers here, which I'm gonna test at least a few of them. Here you can see what they have available, which is quite a good choice. And here is how the place itself look. I can't shoot too much because there are other clients, and as you know, in Islamic countries you should be a little bit more careful with shooting in such places. So here is their IPA. Let's check how it tastes. This looks to be some kind of West Coast IPA. It is more on the bitter side, almost no fruitiness, low alcohol, around 5%. The bitterness is the main accent here. It's okay. So guys, this is the second beer, their stout. Let's see it. Yes, I like this. I like it better than the IPA. This stout is on the lower side of alcohol. It is again around 5%, but it is not an Irish dry stout like you may expect. Yes, there is some bitterness, but it is very well counterbalanced with a low amount of sweetness and also the low amount of alcohol. So this is a very light stout, but it is balanced the way that I like it. So far this looks pretty good, and also this place is great if you want to watch some football, as you can see. And I also forgot to mention the price of these beers. The price is 6 Jordanian dinars, which is approximately 7.2 euro, something like that, which is not cheap, definitely, but also it is quite understandable because in Islamic countries alcohol is always expensive. So guys, this will be the last bullet for tonight because I have slept 4 hours, I have walked for around 15 kilometers today, and I ate only once because simply I didn't have the time. So let's taste this. This one is a Belgian triple brewed here. In fact, it is more like a double. Triple should be a little bit stronger, or maybe I should say the alcohol should be more pronounced, because this one is 9%, it is not weak at all, but it is very well balanced. Such balance is more typical for the doubles than the triples, but anyway it is pretty good. So guys, let me enjoy this, and I will try to have some good sleep tonight, and see you tomorrow for more exploration of Amman. Good morning guys, it is lovely Sunday morning in Amman in Jordan. As you can see, the weather is pretty good, and I am slowly going towards the center of the city to show you some interesting historical places there. But before that, you can see a very famous mosque which was built in the 80s of 20th century. It is called King Abdullah I Mosque, and it is pretty big and pretty impressive. And down next to it there is also a cathedral, which I'm gonna show in a bit. Here is another view of the mosque, and as you can see, right next to it is the Coptic Orthodox Church. This is very good for Jordan. Here Christians and Muslims live together. There is absolutely no religious problems. Here you can see how the downtown Amman looks. It's typical for Arabic cities, old Arabic cities. And here we have the entrance towards the Amman Citadel, where we will enter in a few minutes, and I will share some information about it. Well guys, we just entered the Citadel of Amman. This is one of the longest continually inhabited places in the world. Here some artifacts were found from the Neolithic age. Here you can find some information about this object. As you can see, the first artifacts are from 5,500 years ago, which is very long time ago, and most of the things that you are gonna see here are from the Roman, Byzantine and Umayyad period of the fortress. So let me get a little bit closer to show you some more details. Here we have a very good diagram of the citadel alongside with the most important places and also some history. Here we also have some very beautiful view of this big Jordanian flag with some ancient columns in the background. Here we have a diagram of the walls of the citadel, and you can see the walls themselves. They look pretty ancient. I'm not sure if there were some restoration works here. Most probably yes, but most of these walls is pretty well preserved. So guys, here we have a very beautiful Byzantine church from the 5th century. As you can see, quite a lot of it remained. These columns are very beautiful. Unfortunately, I don't see any preserved mosaics or so on, but even this is pretty impressive. Here is how the inside of the church looked. This is the region with the altar, and this I'm not sure if it was part of the church or not, but it is also in pretty good shape. And here we also have some ancient mosaics. Unfortunately there is a lot of dirt, but otherwise it is pretty beautiful. Here we are entering the Umayyad section of the citadel, the so-called Umayyad city, which was built during the reign of the Umayyad dynasty in the region. This I'm not 100% sure what exactly is, but let me check. This should be souk or marketplace, but this, let me see what exactly is. So this seems to be a reception hall, the place where the governor accepted the visitors who came here. In fact, it looks very well preserved. Of course, you can see that the upper section is new. Obviously, part of restoration works that took place at some point. But overall, it is pretty well done. And the place is really impressive. Yes, you can see that the dome is clearly new. This was built recently. But for example, this section looks very authentic. And this place indeed was pretty big. Oh, here we have some more ruins from the Umayyad period. Obviously, the Umayyads used this upper part of the citadel to build their city. And this is something good, in fact, because this preserved the Byzantine remains that we saw earlier, because otherwise they would be destroyed completely. Here we have some houses. Overall, the place is pretty big. It doesn't look so when you look from outside, but it is pretty big. This colonnaded street is from the Roman times, and later it was also incorporated in the Umayyad city. By the way, these parts, the Middle East, is one of the regions which were inhabited from very early, and some cities here, for example, like Aleppo and Damascus in Syria, are considered by some people to be the longest continuously inhabited places on the earth, which is pretty impressive. There is really a lot of history in the region, and you can learn many things and see many interesting places if you come here. Just look at these massive stone blocks. This was a lot of work, and indeed, yes, this seems to be the street going to the palace, which remains we are seeing now. I really like how they make restoration works here, because they don't create everything from scratch, but also they are not too minimalistic. They do some restoration but incorporate the old walls very well into it, so that you can feel the old vibe, and you can also imagine how the place looked initially. And this seems to be the end. We can see the view towards the city here, so I will slowly return to the central part, because we have some Roman and Byzantine sections to be seen there. This is the wall of the Umayyad Palace, and this section are some remains of houses, most probably houses of people who were important and were somehow connected to the royal court, but were not so important to live in the palace itself. Anyway, it looks pretty good. And here we have Umayyad house. Let's see how it looks from the inside. This one is indeed pretty well preserved and pretty big. So here we have the remains of a big mosque from the Umayyad period. As you can see, it was right in front of the reception hall. And in fact, we don't have a lot remaining from it, but anyway, it is a history. Here we have some remaining fragments of a very big statue from the Roman period. Unfortunately, not much has left, but the original statue is estimated to have been 13 meters high, which is one of the biggest statues ever found from the Roman period. So this is the Temple of Hercules. As you can see, it is a very massive one. And in a bit I will also get down and enter inside. But you can see even from here the sheer size of these columns, how high they are. It's pretty impressive how well this is preserved. Here we have a front view of the temple. Fortunately the sun is a little bit on the bad side here, but we will do whatever we can. I'm not sure if we are allowed to enter inside. I will need to check that. I see that some people are entering inside. I'm not sure if it is formally allowed, but let us try to see how this temple will look from the inside. We can enter from this section. Well, here it is. Here we are right in the center of the Hercules temple. You can only imagine how massive it was when it was in its full glory back in the antiquity. And these are the remains of a watchtower from the Umayyad times. Unfortunately, we can't enter inside, and in fact, there is not too much to be seen, if I should be honest, but at least the base looks pretty okay. Here maybe we have some information, yes, about this Umayyad tower. And here you can see the inscription that was once visible at the top of the Hercules temple, and how the temple looked in fact in the antiquity. It is pretty interesting. Here we also have a view towards the Roman theater, which we are gonna see in a bit, maybe 20-30 minutes when we get there. Here you can see the water systems of the citadel. These were used to store water from the rainfall and also to access some underground water sources in case of, for example, siege of the citadel. Here you can see a little bit of different view towards some remains of Byzantine residential buildings, and in the background you can hear the call to prayer for the Muslims. Here we have a very good front view towards the theater, the Roman theater, and here we have the remains of a palace from the Ammonite times, the Iron Age. This one is very ancient and not much was left from it, but it is a pretty old piece of history. So guys, now we will slowly leave the citadel and we'll get down to the Roman theater, and I will continue from there.